We sing holy, holy, holy.
Thank you for joining us this evening. The alleged power to influence people, events, control activities is what we are still talking about. Witchcraft. We started that topic last week. It was one confusing and surprising one for me, but I'm trusting God for more clarity this evening. This is Clarity Experience. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you had a great week. Reverend, how are you doing?
I'm good, yourself?
I'm okay. How was your week?
I was blessed.
Your week was blessed.
Yeah.
Awesome. Did you deal with any witches in the course of the week?
Definitely, we always pray against them. So,
Alright.
on it.
All right. So you have expectations for this evening engagement?
Yeah, I just think the kingdom should flow.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Right. So feel free to ask your questions. If you have any questions, just drop it in the comments button below, or box below, or column below, and then we'll be glad to read them out. The program will be up on YouTube on Christian Clarity Network CCN, Christian Clarity Network CCN, and you get to watch it. And then of course feel free to share, subscribe, and get updated on the activities of the Christ Ambition Chapel International. Reverend, let's get your opening prayer.
Shall we pray? Spirit of the living God, we thank you for tonight. We ask you to have your way, that clarity be established in Jesus' mighty name. Amen.
Amen. Right. So thank you so much for your time this evening. We are going to start with a question one of you asked on the back of our conversation last week. It had to do with the acquisition of witchcraft. Sure. But this is how the person puts it. That we have seen in this 21st century, from videos of children possessing, I believe you wanted to say possessing witchcraft powers. My question is can certain children possess witchcraft, and how do they contact it? Reverend.
Chief.
This one, as I'm reading this question, I'm just recounting all the Nigerian movies I've watched. and how kids use, or children go about supernatural powers.
Yes.
Are the Nigerian movies true in the narrative they give us? It's mostly through food. We notice that.
Mostly. They use food because they need a point of contact.
Right.
And some of them Nigerian movies, they act is based on true life story.
Right.
That they act it as a movie.
Right.
So yes, children can actually possess witchcraft powers. I happened to be in a program, a place one time, and I was praying, and it was a deliverance service. And whilst I started praying, then all of a sudden one kid did this style. Then I began to see all sorts of manifestations.
Right.
And just I understand, that's a snake.
Right.
That's his identity in the spirit.
Right.
So whilst the prayer was going on, I approached the kid and I began to rebuke it. And after the whole program, the kid told me that, you know what, this thing started in school. That when it started, I was like, do your parents know? I was like, I told my parents about it, but they didn't really give much attention to me.
Right.
I told them that certain friends of mine started giving me certain things in dreams. And I tell them, and they go like, oh, maybe because you took their thing, they don't really pay attention to it. So some of these children who don't have discerning parents get themselves involved with some of these things, and they grow up and they become a thorn in their own parents' flesh.
Right.
So I dealt with it by the grace of God, and I asked certain questions, and by the questions, the child made me understand that it was a snake in the spirit.
Where will this if you have to pick this story systematically, I don't know if you got to ask how he acquired it before getting his identity as a snake. Was it how did this child acquire it?
The child contracted it through food. He
Was it physically? Or?
Yeah, it was physically in school. So in school, you know, those kids, there are certain traits that as if you see in children, you must devise a strategy by which you can suppress it.
Right.
Do you get it? Because it will only lead them into trouble. There's a difference between being smart and being wise.
Right.
We feel that the kids of today, some are smart. It's good, but we must curb the smartness. We must nurture the smartness to make them understand that it doesn't go to this point. It doesn't go to that point. So the child contracted it through food. So as I said, if you start seeing certain traits in your child, let's say you go out with a child and somebody's eating the child, I believe that when we were growing up, there are certain things that we were told by our parents that scared us, and it didn't make us want to eat somebody's food.
Right.
And I think that those things don't just is enough to actually save the children out of certain trouble. Because there are certain traits you see, they are growing up like a kid, and let's say you take this thing, and the kid will cry all day because you took his thing. You see certain traits like greed in the kid, even though it's a kid. You see certain traits, you must start dealing with it right from his infancy. Because if a kid does something and you don't discipline the kid there and there, the kid wouldn't really know what he has done if you discipline the kid afterwards. So it started from school, where he started taking things from his friends, eating his friends' food, and that's how he contracted it. So one night he was just there, and he saw in a dream that a kid and a friend had carried him somewhere, and they were trying to initiate him through the same food. And it was food he loved. So it was something spiritual, and he ate the food. Right. And that was how come he got initiated.
Last week we were talking about, I don't know if it was a question, but at some point we were trying to understand how these spirits, evil spirits or witchcraft spirits, reside in people.
Yeah.
And then you hinted about animals also being called judgment and all that. How is food, which is not a living thing, become a place for or a tool for witchcraft manipulation?
Okay. Every kingdom wants to grow one way or the other. That is why the devil didn't rebel alone. Right. He took 1/10 of God's angels because he didn't want to do it alone.
Right.
So every kingdom seeks to grow. Now there are things that they use to get people to join them. Some of the things is not just food. Some of them are even certain dressings, the way you dress, the way you present yourself,
right,
and having a lying tongue, and all that. These are things that are grounds that it becomes chronic. It invites certain spirits to you, to yourself. Now, when you talk about the food, it's something that they use to contact you because it's what enters you. So it's a point for them to get inside of you. Because before a cultist can actually take care of your mind, it first begins to cult your mind first. It cults your mind. It takes care of you physically. It sorts out your need and all that. Then after it graduates from sorting out your needs to culting your mind, taking care of your mind. But now it becomes some sort of a mind controlling spirit. It begins to control you to do certain things. So food is one of the ways by which they use to contract something that actually enters you. And food is one of the ways they use to do that.
Right. Apart from they using food, how else do people acquire witchcraft?
As I did establish that there are certain things you do that invites them. Let me just read something shortly in Proverbs chapter 6, the verse number 16. Talking about 6 things the Lord hates, 7 of them is an abomination unto him. Then it establishes certain things. I just want to read in a jiffy.
Right.
Okay, so it says that these 6 things, though the Lord hates, yea, 7 an abomination unto him. A proud look, a lying tongue, and hands that shed innocent blood, the heart that devises wicked imaginations, and feet that are swift to run into mischief, and false witness that speaks lies, and he that sowed discord among brethren. And these are things that if you, whether you're a believer or whatever, if you see signs of those things inside of you, you must deal with them, because it's grounds for the enemy to operate. All he needs is that he needs a grounds of operation. So if you are a liar, a chronic liar, come on, you can lie for their kingdom. If they see that the imagination of your heart, you think evil of people. So in this dispensation, witchcraft has graduated from the realm of just being people just contracting it through food and other things, or whether maybe it was a grandmother somewhere that contracted it, that initiated the kids into it, or anything of that sort, to the fact that even if you are there and you don't think good for your friend and you think evil for them, you imagine that this thing should happen to your friend, and people are let's say your friend is doing a business, doing ministry, whatever, and you don't think good of them. That alone is witchcraft, because the Bible says in the book of First Samuel 15, the verse number 23, it says that the sin of rebellion is as witchcraft. The sin of rebellion is as witchcraft. So anything rebellion gives you grounds for witchcraft to be introduced. Anything a heart that mischiefs evil gives you grounds for witchcraft to be introduced. So it's not just through food. These things can be grounds for which witchcraft can be introduced into your life.
So in a nutshell, we can say your weaknesses can be grounds for witchcraft manipulation.
Yes.
Indeed. I'm particularly concerned about children. What if they are at the stage where they can't control, let's say, what they take in or what they come out with? You know, can just babies, for instance, you handing over a baby to someone to take care of, and then that baby getting contacting witchcraft spirit or being an object for manipulation. How do you explain that, you know, in the framework of everything?
I believe that what the question you've asked is a very, very good question. If you look at the life of Job, from Job 1, we learned a lot of things about Job. One of the things you have to understand about Job is that Job knows how to make atonement for his children when his children are not home. I believe that we are living in a dispensation where we should be like Job, who always make atonement for their children, shadow them in prayer, whether they are home or wherever they find themselves. And these we must be parents of intercession, whereby we stand in the gap for our children. Because Job said that if peradventure they have visited their aunties, they have done something which was contrary to God and His ordinances. So let me just make intercession for them. Let me make atonement for them. So Job always makes atonement for his children. Making atonement for them also means that he's shadowing them in prayer. So I think that is the responsibility of the parent, not just to prepare the future for them, but also prepare them for the future. By shadowing them in prayer, by teaching them the way of the Lord, by standing in the gap for them, whether they are asleep or because children growing up. Come on, I recall the number of times I woke up at dawn to pray when I was growing up. Most of the times I woke up was because I wanted to go to the washroom and come back. So parents should be able to be the priests of the home and make atonement for these children. I believe that there's nothing that prayer cannot do. Prayer knows no bound in the spirit, and it can travel and it can actually block the potency of whatever the enemy wants to do through food or through whatever means.
Right. So if you are just joining us, this is Clarity Experience. It's an initiative of the Christ Ambition Chapel International to bring you up close, you know, some clarity, some understanding to things that confront us every day as Christians. Last week we started talking about witchcraft. Today we are continuing that particular subject. We established the origin of witchcraft, how it happens, and the question the Reverend just addressed was acquisition of witchcraft, how it's acquired and all that. We'll come down to inheritance, and then we'll look at libation pouring. Then we'll enter African tradition, and then the herbs. So many times when you see the herbalists, when they come in and they sell the drugs to you in the truck from, they are backing into the scriptures. There's something they always say. So it's always their point of reference. We're trying to understand that particular scripture. But let's acknowledge our sponsors. Konatech Ghana, if you're looking for a place to learn how to drive, and then of course acquire driver's service, license and all that, you are equally looking to buy a car or rent a car. As far as it has to do with driving and cars, please come to Konatech Ghana. Call us on 0244-625-581 or 0548-238-484. Find us at Community 3 between Pivot Gym and then at 12 Garden. You can also find us at Atadeka Shaiman. Switch Tech Solution is the place to get all your classic graphic designs, your CCTV and networking installation, troubleshooting among others. Call Sugar on 0247-232-047. 0247-232-047. AB's Woodwork for all your woodwork and furniture, well-shaped beds, chairs, tables, garden seats. Typical example is what we have here. Call 0234-150-411. 0234-150-411. McBill Catering is a place to get all your delicious delicacies, your food, your drinks for your events, weddings, funerals, parties. Just call 0243-383-264. 0243-383-264. And then if you're looking for a friend to help you acquire property, you want to buy a house, you want to rent a house, you want to get a piece of land for a project, but you need someone to talk to, advise you, kindly call 0243-822-922. 0243-822-922. If you want to buy an apartment too, the same number. It's Erickson Property Consults. They will give you all the advice you need as far as it has to do with building an apartment and land. Reverend, Witchcraft by Inheritance. Baby. I learned that it's from a mother. It's called Baby because it's supposed to be for the good of the child. Baby. And it's supposed to be a beautiful thing as far as African tradition is concerned. I am asking this question because you said every parent should be able to intercede for their children. Would it be justified to say that this is the African way of interceding for your child and in fact protecting them? That's why it's called baby. But maybe it's something happened there and then you became
Terms and conditions of it doesn't the terms and conditions of it doesn't make it so, because even if according to African tradition is designed to have been something nice for the nice purpose of taking care of your children, at least that is what they will use to lure you into it. Once you get into it, they'll get to a point in time they will demand the blood of your children, and that's what happened sometime back when a mother was into that sort of thing, and she was using it to back the children and everything. Then one time the child went outside the country and they told her that it was time for her to bring the child. She showed every other colleagues' children and all that, and it's now time for her to bring her child. So she wasn't ready to bring the child, and the child came down. The child was in the States and came down. When the child did, the mother specifically told the child not to come to a particular region in this nation. And the child said, "No, what are you talking about? I brought in gift to visit you and all that." So the child did, and when the child got there, the mother said, "What happened? You've disturbed me." And upon returning, there was an accident, and he was with the child was with a friend, and the child died, and the friend didn't die. Why? Because it wasn't meant for the friend, but the child.
Right.
So once it's something they want to lure you into, they might say all sort of nice things and what it can be used for, but it will get to a point that you can't control the terms and conditions of it.
But these things were there long before we were introduced to Christianity. It's something they've always lived by, and it has worked for them. How is it now not?
It has worked for them with consequences. It has worked for them with consequences that even in this generation you might be facing. I said something to someone the other time. I said that it's not that this generation we are not great or we don't have great ideas. So the God has simply certain great things in us. It's not that we are not great. We are. We are people of purpose, and I personally believe that if we give it a platform, we are going to do mighty things for God's kingdom and even for our nation.
Right.
But it's because of the fact that there are so many things undealt with, so many family issues undealt with, so many things that have gone on behind the scenes, so many cases to deal with, and because of that, so many generational forever, and because of that, it has made things difficult for us in our dispensation. Why? Because men did not rise up in whatever family you find yourself to actually deal with those things. And we are facing the consequence of it. And because history repeats itself on a higher plane, it becomes very big. It's like everything has to become a struggle. You are getting a job, then you lose the job, then this, then that. Your finances is not stable, and everything one way or the other has to become a struggle. And for that, you must understand that things have been done before you came. That is why when we're dealing with kids, I did establish that for these things, you need the ancient of days to stand with you, to exempt you from all these ancient power, because the analysis of cases and the analysis of it states that truly somebody has done something. The Bible says that the soul that sin must die, and that means that there must be consequences for your action. And the Bible says that visiting the iniquities of the fathers upon the fathers unto the children and unto the third and fourth generation. So iniquities can be transferred. Iniquities done can be transferred onto generation. But by the grace of God, for us as born again believers, God can exempt us. By our understanding of God, the truth of God's word, He can exempt us from that sort of thing. So that is where the whole issue lies.
African religion. A study of it will show that they believe in the supreme being, the same one we call God. And at some point in their understanding of this theory, they also have a certain belief in witchcraft. In fact, they believe, just like Christians do, there's God, there's the good spirit, and then there's the bad spirit. The bad spirit being the witchcraft and all its powers and what comes with it and all that. How are we supposed to look at this practice of African religion, because it's still very strong? And how do we? At what point do we know that this is not African religion? This is witchcraft. I want to start with a practice like libation. When we pour libation,
Make certain incantation.
yes, we call on God. You hear them saying, calling God by His attributes and all that. How do you explain that?
I'll look up onto the hills. From whence cometh my help? My help cometh from the Lord, who is the maker of the heavens and the earth. That establishes that there are many laws. There are many, many laws. Now, the fact that something might be working for you doesn't necessarily mean it is God, the maker of the heavens and the earth. The fact that certain practices might be working for so long a time. I'll give you an example. In the wilderness, the children of Israel rebelled against God and Moses. And when they did, God released a fiery serpent against them to discipline them. Then Moses interceded for them, and by the intercession of Moses, God asked Moses to make a bronze serpent, making the statement with the bronze serpent that as the people look up to the bronze serpent, they will receive their healing. What God was trying to establish was that as the Son of Man will be lifted up, and as it is written that by His stripes we are healed. That is the same way if they look up to the serpent, it's a reflection of what Jesus Christ will come and do for humanity.
Right.
That was the only time God asked them to do that. Now, they went a step further and they took the idol and they started making idol worship out of it. A lot of kings passed who did not really realize what the efficacy of what they was doing. Please understand that it was working for them. They were praying, they were making certain incantations, even in the name of God. But you have to understand that we are living in a world, in a spirit world, where we wrestle not against flesh and blood. Now, if I begin to worship this phone, if I start worshiping it, and I start even mentioning the name of God in it, a spirit dimension, it will attract a spirit dimension. And by the attraction of the spirit dimension, it would work for me. If I put my faith to it, it will work for me. It would bring me healing, deliverance, and all that, but it will not be God. Because by the practice I have started, it has attracted a spirit to enter and to pray. Because the spirits are looking for somewhere to enter. That is why the Bible says that if a demon possesses a man and leaves a man, and it comes back and finds that a man's body is empty, it goes to bring 7 other demons powerful than himself to possess the body. Right. So for them, they are just hovering about. Even as you are sitting there, they might be hovering around. They are looking for an empty space, a void of space to enter. So once they get that space, they enter. So it's more or less of the fact that it's something that we must understand, that is it really God we are calling upon? Fine, we are attracting a spirit, we are mentioning God's name, we are making those incantations, we are doing all those things. Now, biblically, it's not right. Biblically, it's not right. But let's just say that by religion and by the practice, then they are doing it, it's working. But the question is that, is it the Lord who is the maker of the heavens and the earth? That's where the whole thing lies. So it's about whether it's God or not.
Why do the Christian call on God? The traditionalists, or the one who believes in African religion, also calls on God. They all get results. But you are saying that it may not be the true God.
The maker of the heavens and the earth.
Yes. Why would the maker of the heavens and the earth keep quiet for a stranger to use his name to do stuff?
It says that vengeance is of the Lord, and I will repay. The Bible also says that we should allow everything to go. But when the time of the harvest is, the one which is not right will be uprooted. Then Gamaliel says something. Gamaliel said that if it's of God, it shall stand. If it's not of God, it's just a matter of time. It doesn't matter how long you take, it shall fall. So I think God is patient, and He understands that there's time for everything. Just because it might be working doesn't mean that it's God. There are some denominations that practice certain things which is not biblical. They pray certain prayers which is not biblical. It's not in the Bible. They can't defend it. It's not there. But it has been something which has been some sort of a tradition. It has been there for so long a time. And everybody comes and follow along. And they don't actually take time to find out this thing we are really doing. It's working for us, but is it really God? As I said, kings, powerful kings who even had a relationship with God, came and passed by, but none of them detected that bronze serpent that they were worshipping was idolatry. It was Hezekiah that came and destroyed that bronze serpent and said, this thing you are doing, I have descended and I have realized that it's idolatry. But it is written that you shall not bow down to any other God except me, except the Almighty God. That He is a jealous God, and this thing you are doing is idolatry. So it was in Hezekiah's time that He came to destroy all these things. So the question here is it really God? Sure. Even what we see today, even in denominations, people might be giving testimonies, all sort of things are happening, and all sort of powers. People are moving here for prophecy and all that. It might be working, but the question is it really God? Because most of the things they are doing is biblical, but the question is it really God? Is their source God? That is where the whole issue is.
Alright, so it's still Clarity Experience. If you have questions, kindly put them there. We'll try and then answer out before the time is up. The usage of herbs. Pastor Kuti was just helping me with the tree one is so popular. Yes, eat the fruits and then use the fruits.
The leaves.
To heal yourself. Mostly when they approach you in the trotro and they are selling the herbs to you, or even on radio and TV, to justify that, to make you safe, to feel safe about the product you are buying, or the practice they are showing you. Trying to make this very simple for us.
Okay.
What is God's view on
Herbs.
herbs?
Every plant in the field before it was in the earth. Genesis, I'm quoting Genesis 2:5. And every herb in the field before it grew. Every herb. So herb is acknowledged.
Right.
First of all, if you take something like vitamin C, which is a foreign medicine today. Vitamin C was as a result of it being extracted from the fruit called orange. If you take something like a neem tree, if you boil neem tree and you drink, it takes care of malaria. I think that the issue here is that God created all these herbs for his purpose. Now, it is not everybody who has the eye to see that this thing can heal this disease or can heal that. It's good. I don't see any problem with herbs. I think that we are living in a dispensation where foreign medicine is much appreciated than herbs. So herbs are good. But the point of the herbs becoming bad is that if it graduates, like the bronze serpent graduated from the point of just what God wanted them to, what God wanted to establish in the wilderness for that particular time and season, and it graduated to become idolatry. If it graduates from just using them to heal people, and it graduates from that realm to becoming and making certain incantation to it and using it for witchcraft activity, then that is where the problem is.
When you
because
making certain incantation, herbalists will tell you that when you are using this particular herb or leaf, you need to create a sound. Sometimes they accompany it with sounds in the Bible. You have to keep sort of chanting for it to work. With a scenario like that, will you describe it as witchcraft?
It depends.
Because this does really happen.
Yeah, it happens.
A lot. And when they meet you, they give you, I don't know why, it's mostly the sounds they give.
I think that the issue is not really the sounds. The issue is that, as I said, if they graduate, then they might need a cover-up room. Definitely, there is nothing on anybody's forehead written witchcraft, fake pastor, whatever. It's through discernment that you realize. Definitely, if you are doing something of that sort, it's also truth you might feel presenting, but you are exaggerating beyond the usefulness of its purpose. And when truth is exaggerated beyond the usefulness of its purpose, it becomes a lie, it becomes something else. So definitely, the devil is not going to use the rule of this is what it is. They will have a cover up. They know it won't really work, or it won't really do anything. It's just to convince you that even it's biblical. But the point is that you must be discerning to realize if truly whatever direction, because the Bible says that the Spirit searcheth all things, yea, the deep things of God. And Romans chapter 8 verse 14 says that as men that are led by the Spirit of God, these are they who are the sons of God. So it's up to you as a believer to discern and realize by the Spirit if truly it's what God wants you to do.
What happens to the believer who doesn't have the gift of discernment? Because when they are selling these products on TV and radio, they don't say this is for believers. Anybody with the problem. And now, I'm now thinking about, if I'm going with your explanation, I'm thinking now about innocent people who come under this knowledge and then go after and then do whatever instructions they are given and all that. And what is the way forward? It looks like a very hopeless situation.
It gets to a point in time that you must take responsibility for your actions.
When you say
there's nothing like innocent people. I was saying something. I said that if you are about 7 years and over, talking about when we were there with Elijah, you know what is good and right. If you should die today, your good and right will separate you, will make you move. There's nothing like I'm innocent.
Let's say you are. No, I'm looking at this in the framework of those who are suffering from ailments.
Definitely,
They are
illnesses will make you look for solutions and all that.
And those people don't have always don't have the patience to discern. In fact, they're already going through pain to have that ability to discern. So they are just looking for solutions, answers. They find that, and
the only problem with that is that if it's not really God, it won't last. It's a mirage. So let's just say, fine, you're innocent, you do that, but the the length of whether you feel fine or not will show you whether it's a mirage or it's just God healing you.
indeed. Okay, so Mr. Clarity Experience, we are just wrapping up. There are 2 more questions, but they are quite broad. But I want you to just scratch the surface so that next week we just go into it. We have how do I know I am under a witchcraft manipulation? Yes, how do I know?
Witchcraft manipulation introduces oppression, affliction, and frustration.
Okay.
So these things can make you know you are being under some sort of witchcraft manipulation.
So you are going through some form of oppression,
Affliction, frustration. Yes.
Okay. Those things, people will tell you they are normal to us as human beings. How do you know that this kind of oppression is not normal?
It's not normal.
Yeah.
It's like, let's say you are sick. You go to the hospital first time, doctor doesn't really find anything. Medical science can't detect anything. Second time, the second time they should start telling you that no, there's something wrong somewhere. There's something I must do or I must deal with. So that by the potency of it or how weighty it is, you quickly want to be redeemed out of it.
Right.
So you don't just sit there and just say that, well, if this kind of oppression is part of life, right? There are certain frustration or mental bombardment that is not just as a result of life's difficulty, but it's as a result of the fact that there is a power working behind the scene and causing and manipulating all those things. There's a point of the fact that the point of the fact that life's just a normal life something, but when it starts graduating, you must realize that there must be certain prayers you must pray to deal with it. To bring the affliction to an end.
Okay, so next week we'll try practically to look at some manipulations, practical example, and then try to explain the manipulations going on. But if there's any lesson to take away today, as far as herbs is concerned, is using discernment.
Yes, discernment.
Using discernment. And God is not against herbs.
No, He's not. He's not. It's the form of its graduation.
Right.
Where it will graduate to and what will make you do and the motive of it and how that it will begin to use to disadvantage its own people. As I began to say last week concerning the rain and how that they know how to use certain herbs to make certain incantations, that's disadvantaging God's people. And God is against that. But for herbs, He created herbs, it's not against it.
Indeed. Right. Thank you so much for your time this evening. Our teacher is the senior pastor for the Christ Ambition Chapel International, Reverend Assabil. My name is Sigmund. God have a blessed week.